Thank you for staying with us on TMI this morning. I'm joined by three gentlemen already, and together we want to have a quick discussion about two topical issues that I already highlighted earlier as we opened TMI this morning. Just to my immediate left is Destiny Owobu, statistician, economist. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Next to him is, let's call him a regular, Reverend Olu Martins, public affairs commentator. We also appreciate you coming on the show this morning.
Thank you.
And then we have Dr. Patrick Awosage, legal practitioner. We appreciate you as well on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I want us to start this discussion with the 2020 budget, gentlemen. I want to begin with you, Destiny. We had talked about the budget when it was proposed earlier, and now we've moved a bit further. At least it has been signed now. It has become an act, right? Two things give a lot of Nigerians concern. One is the funding. The second is effective implementation. A lot of times it will appear once one cycle wraps up, we really don't care much about the extent to which implementation has been done. Are we going to see a sort of paradigm shift with this one? Because the president says it excites him knowing that we are back to the January to December cycle for the budgetary process. But is that enough? Is that remarkable enough?
Yeah. First of all, I want to commend the federal government for at least returning us to the normal cycle, January to December. That's beyond that. We talk about what is going to do the implementation and others. We must look beyond the talk. First of all, why have we not been able to ascertain the reason for not up to 60% performance of the capital budget in the last 10 years? You know, we must get beyond the talk. Our recurrent expenditure has been performing very well. You know, everybody gets paid from the recurrent expenditure, so there's no problem with that. There has been no problem with that. The problem has always been the capital aspect. You know, the budget for the capital aspects, 60% for 10 years average. It's worrisome. So if we have 40% unattended to, I don't see any magic that makes it possible for we to attend to that 40% this year. So you see, like I said, we must get beyond looking at it politically. We must look at it from structural perspective. What happened to the 60%? Why has it not been performing since? What is it, revenue gap, or what is the reason? We must look at it and we must factor it into this problem, into this solution, and then see what happens at the end of the year. So for now, I'm cautiously optimistic about the performance of the budget, but let's see how it goes.
Okay, let me go to Reverend Lou Martins now. We understand that the legislature, let's say the lawmakers themselves in particular, are getting more concerned about this whole process about budgeting for this country. So they are saying, yes, we have to borrow by all means if there's need for it. But two things must be established again. One, the purpose for which you are borrowing. And second, going forward, accountability. We must be able to tie specific amount of money to specific projects. That's a step in the right direction, isn't it?
Yeah, let me help him thank federal government for bringing us back to this cycle.
Okay.
Also thank ITV for serving me tea, especially during Amateur. This is very... so even if the budget is not performing like that, ITV is performing to optimism.
It's okay.
That's on the lighter note. But I totally agree with you that there's nothing wrong with borrowing. Fortunately, I've had some level of exposure in certain business schools, and we were told, for instance, that you can't borrow for consumption. And consumption varies. And let me use we as an example. For instance, your cloth, for somebody who is not in the media, who must appear, this is your uniform.
Right.
So you can actually go to somebody who sells jackets and say, please, give me 10, because this is my uniform. This is an investment for me, all right? The guys who are backstage, maybe, you know, like them Hillary and Tony, who people don't see it like they see you, if they go and do the same thing, they're going to be borrowing for consumptions. That's going to be a luxury. But for you, whose outlook, at least for yourself and for the station, is this is your uniform. So this is that your if you have suits on air, it's actually an investment, you know, for you. So you can see how it works. It goes through for a nation. If a nation, for instance, borrows to pay salaries, it means that two things: either that people are earning jumbo salaries, all right, and then, or you have an over bloated workforce, because your workforce must be productive enough back to back to be able to at least work the salary, you know, work what they earn. So when you see nations who are borrowing to pay salary, it means that the workforce is too big. And I've often said it that it is fairly true that government has no business in core business. What government does is create an enabling environment for businesses to come in, and then to engage, the process and engage. But when you see people say, for instance, they want to have a government job so that they can retire, and then you go to most government parastatals, somebody who is doing is auditor. This one is a deputy auditor. This one is assistant, auditor. This one is a deputy assistant. You hear all kinds of duplication. That brings about retipism and bureaucratic bottleneck. So your file has to go through several persons before it comes out. So why don't you put all of that and just have somebody or one or two people who manages that. So I agree with you that when there's nothing wrong, America owes. I think that America is the country that borrows the most. But when America borrows, they borrow, and two things happen. First of all, when you borrow, you must look at when you're investing into it. There are two aspects of investment. There's first of all ROI1, which is your return of investments, the money that you put in, and your return on investment. So if you're going to ask yourself, you're going to ask, and you're tying it to the other one, the other question that you have, which is needs assessments. And because it's not just about putting money. For instance, I've seen people who go to put borehole somewhere, and then the borehole doesn't work. What happened was that they didn't ask.
Meanwhile, their name is boldly written on the borehole.
They didn't ask the community for needs assessment. What do you need, more than X, Y, Z? But people give them. So then nobody comes to ask afterwards, what's the functionality of this thing? And then it brings us to accountability, and transparency. And you can have, your fiscal policies as a nation is very, very important, because those fiscal policies are tied to how much you can borrow, especially from donor agencies, like World Bank and all of that, because they want to look at your policies. For instance, people are asking to say you've got to remove fuel subsidy, because they think that it doesn't add up. That where somebody has 7 cars, for instance. If you can afford to have 7 cars, it means that they can afford appropriate pricing, of petrol. It is not the petrol price. It's not the price that is high. It's our consumption that is high, because we have people who have 10 cars and they have no use for them. Sometimes you go on the road and there's one individual has, a convoy of, 7 cars in his convoy. So if, for instance, you're able to jack up, and I'm not advocating for that, I'm just giving a scenario. If you jack it up a little bit, it means that person may consider using 2 cars, because once consumption once consumption reduces, demand will also reduce, and once demand reduces, ultimately is that you find an equilibrium price that everybody can afford. So government has to be transparent. Government has to be open. The government must have an open government initiative. In most instances, for instance, I'll quickly give you an example. I heard some British guys, donor agencies, say, they rather burn their money than send it to Nigeria. The reason is because they deprive themselves of some first fundamentals and then send it to us to promote things like transparency, open government, maybe HIV/AIDS. Now, they are depriving themselves, but when they get here, they find out that we, who they are trying to help, we're living larger, than them on the other side. So, we're not going to send money to them. So, if government wants to perform very, optimally, because I know that this budget, for instance, has about a 2.13 trillion, deficit. And then even if you look at this budget is, for instance, is pegged, I think it's still about, is it 55?
Oil price benchmark.
Yeah, oil price benchmark. And they're expecting that we would have 2.18 billion barrels, a day. But that's not what is happening. All right. So until we're able to, cut down, on our expenses, reduce, our overhead, we're going to keep having, budget deficit, because, like you said, the recurrent expenditure isn't a problem, because people will hit the streets if they don't get there. So it is the capital expenditure, and if the country must move forward, I've looked at the budget. I'm sure we'll get into that. If you look at the individual aspects of the budget, it will also give you the emphasis of this administration. For instance, education is a paltry for 3 billion, and then you have water resources. I think water resources is about 85 billion. All right. So if water, when we dig our boreholes, is more expensive than education, you can understand the trust, of this government. So I agree with you that there has to be accountability, there has to be needs assessment, and then we have to borrow for the right. If what we're borrowing for doesn't create an economy that can pay the money back, then unfortunately we're borrowing to eat, which is not good for a nation.
All right, Patrick, let me talk to you about Nigerians and the budgetary process. It will appear most Nigerians are not interested in all of this plenty talk like Reverend Lumartins has been analyzing. People think the process is too composite and protracted, so they think there's too much of technicalities involved with the budgetary process. So a lot of Nigerians don't even follow from that point where the budget is proposed up until when it is assented to, all they just want is government do roads for us, government build schools for us, build healthcare facilities for us. Is it not also a factor that Nigerians are interested enough to want to ask questions about certain elements regarding the budget? Because just a while ago, these two gentlemen have emphasized some aspects of the budget, but the capital and recurrent expenditure angles of the budget, for example. Don't you think Nigerians should individually and collectively be interested to ask questions from time to time? Because most Nigerians don't even have the slightest idea what happens with the budget. All they know is one street was tarred, or maybe one school was renovated. Is that enough, really?
Thank you very much. Reverend Lumatis can confuse you and push you out into everything. So I would be surprised that a whole lot of Nigerians are not, getting to know this, and they are not really following in that regard. You see, the problem is that when you keep people backward to a large extent, what will you expect in that very sense? You see, what's the value of, what price or what do you put on education? And somebody who is hungry, I tell him to sit down and watch somebody speaking big English on television with a budget. What concerns him? He has not paid his house rent, and he wouldn't know that if I could get this information, it could also help me and some way, somehow. But that's on the other hand. But the truth is this. You see, when people are beginning to, even those that seem to know, are no more interested, that it's one big story. It's one Nollywood show or the other. Somebody fighting here and there, and we're talking about a whole lot of things we tend to do. As a nation, we talk about borrowing and here and there, we borrow for the right. They have already explained the aspects of borrowing and all whatnot. You are talking about budgets. Ordinarily, when you talk about budgets, it should be followed up and everything should be interpreted the way it was, because an act in itself, it has become a working law.
Right.
You cannot just negate from. But over time, what have been done to those? Nobody have really given proper accountability with respect to what have been done in terms of the budgetary and allocations to various sectors, as it were. They have not really gone in. I'm looking at it from the legal angle now. You just say, well, it didn't fail, it didn't work well. Somebody caused something happened along the line. Somebody should be punished. That's why the law is there, to ensure that persons are punished. And that is the reason, that's the only way. Because we talk about recurring, budgetary allocations coming up every time people want to get this and get that, and, the capital aspect is negated, and we expect miracles to happen. I believe nations are built by human beings, not by spirits. I don't believe in that story of we are hoping on God. And we know we are very religious people in this country, and we keep bringing in the elements of God, Reverend Lumatins and others that will come up to preach and tell you, you will be this in another 20 years.
You preach as well.
We tell them all of that.
Yes.
So this is where it also, we need to work. We need to know what we are doing. So the average man, to a large extent, don't even believe in the government. I'm telling you the truth.
That's not a good thing, is it?
It's not a good thing, but it's because of what they have seen over time. I remember, let me present this example, when the comrade governor, Adam Saliu Shomale, came on board years ago, and then there was a young man who graduated from our school at Brusali University who struggled all the way, helped himself with all manner jobs, and he had become a graduate in the state with some many stuff, and he found a man who said, I'm a brother, I'm a comrade like you. That's phenomenal. So everybody to the street, we're going to fight. He stood by the ballot box at Akenzwa Primary School, and eventually was gunned down. He was killed, and he died for that. Then his father at the time, when the governor went to visit him, pay condolence visit and all of that, he said, well, I know my son did not die in vain. He died for what is something worthwhile. But I don't think that man will say that after that, few years passed. You see, it's the same old story. So everybody's just saying, well, why? Like 2 days ago, I was coming from Ibadan. I had a court matter case in Ibadan. And I had another one in Benin on the 17th against the FCC. So I needed to come. But what I was doing, I couldn't finish. I drive at night, so there's no big deal about driving. Say, oh, you drive at night. When I was coming, we talked so much about security. I met some soldiers, and they say, those Akure Road, not too good, and all of that. I was wondering why you are here. It's not good, and you are being paid, you are here burning firewood everywhere and jumping around. So to me, it wasn't. Then I got to Legbeka Aziz. I was coming in, I saw these herdsmen on the road. They had blocked the road. So me, I'm not naturally a fearful person. I started honing my pressing my horn that they should leave the road. All I saw was that they started bringing, they were pushing the cows on the same road, not giving me space. The next I saw several torchlights behind me. I knew they were the ones, and I knew if I decide to reverse, they're going to start attacking me. So I chose to take my destiny in my hand by killing them first, because the first way to defend is to attack. So I drove very fast.
In the direction of the cow?
In the direction of the cow, and I saw one of them with his gun, and I ran into him. He jumped away, then I reversed my car. The other ones on the other side, I went to them again, and before I could get back, they shot my tires, and I got out of that place. And before I got to 2 other communities, I could do that because I got the guts to do that. But the truth is this: not every Nigerian will do that. I know several doctors. The doctor said, I killed my friend there. A professor in Ambrisal University the other day, last week or so, was killed in this same place. What are we talking about? We talk about budgets and financial. The soldiers are here, and at the time the military said they want to resort to spiritual means of solving these problems and all of that. So these are the issues. So you don't expect the Nigerians to take government seriously in that regard. So they have given up on governance and government.
But again, I'm very sure that it still does not take away from the responsibility the people owe themselves to follow through with the things, activities
I'm only giving the reason.
You're trying to give reasons as to why we are where we are.
Encouraging that.
Yes, that people are not interested because they have other things distracting them.
No, I'm not encouraging that. I cited 2 major factors. I was on the Ibadan streets and I saw, we keep saying people are hungry, people are suffering.
Right.
I could see it for the very first time. I know when I walk around Ring Road, even when I see my people, we are still, looking somewhat cool, on the streets. When I saw people, I was wondering, are these Nigerians that we are, they're poor, so impoverished, hungry? You could see somebody hawking and begging, and hawking, asking for you to buy or dash me money. I'm hungry, though I'm hungry. So these people are really, really hopeless. So when you have a larger percentage of people like that, you don't expect them to think right. That's the point I'm making.
And be looking at the details of the budget.
Yes, all they want is food. So that picture of the other time, the baby that was trying to go down, the photographer committed suicide, I think years ago, and then he was trying to go to the camp where there is food. The baby could not crawl and they fell, and then there was a big vulture behind the baby, waiting for the baby to die and then start feasting on the baby. So the guy that snapped, the white guy, killed himself because he felt ordinarily should have saved that life. And this is what we are talking. Nigeria has, I'm telling you the truth, a lot of things have gone so bad.
So we have to address fundamental issues of the point.
Angle.
Let's talk about borrowing, for example, and then revenue generation. This is one country where in the last couple of months we have seen customs come out to tell us figures as to how much they had realized. Then, of course, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, there were cases where they even exceeded their projected revenue, and so on and so forth. If we have all of this, let's not even talk about other revenue-generating agencies of government, for instance. If we have all of these properly mopped up, for example, do you think we'll borrow at all, or don't you think borrowing will be much minimal?
Yes, like I said before on this show, it's about the easy approach.
Okay.
The easy approach. Nigerians prefer simple solutions to complex problems. So naturally, we take the easy approach.
That doesn't work, does it?
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's a stopgap measure. There's a long-term approach to solving problems. I told you macro issues are supposed to be solved strategically. You understand? So why are we borrowing in the first place? We are borrowing because we have a narrow economy. Okay? Once you look at it structurally, we have a narrow economy that is dependent on a single product. Okay?
And that's oil.
And that's oil. And so that's why we don't have enough money. Like I even say, even the budget, the entire national budget is a paltry sum. Macroeconomically speaking, our budget cannot do anything to develop this country.
Absolutely.
I told you that before. South Africa's budget is about $150 billion. It's a 40 million economy, population economy. Nigeria's budget is just 30 billion for 200 million people. So the federal budget is it's like you are trying to throw pebbles to pull this wall down. Okay? The budget is too small. I'll give you a perspective. The U.S. population is 350 million.
All right.
The budget is 6 trillion. 6 trillion. The budget is 6 trillion. The GDP is 20 trillion. So the budget is about 40% of the size of the economy. But the budget of Nigeria is just 2% of the size of the economy. So 40%, 2%. The budget of Nigerian economy is the budget of Harvard University, one American university.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? I mean, what we need to look at, our problems are big, very big problems. We are applying small solutions to big problems. Like I said, we should even be borrowing 25 trillion to develop the economy if we needed to grow the economy. But the problem is, we are going to also look at some issues. What about the fundamentals? How do you pay this money? Debt servicing, for instance, in our budget is about 2.6 trillion. Our debt service cost is more than our capital budget. That's a misnomer. You are using 2.6 trillion to pay for debt incurred, and then your capital budget is 2.something trillion. If we borrow more, we are going to increase the debt service in the future. So it's not working. So to me, what I think we should look at is we should stop discussing the budget itself. The budget is too small. It's like we should be looking at bigger issues. For instance, how do we diversify the economy? What are the strategic points? How can foreigners come in? Like I told you, we need to open an economy very wide. It's only in Nigeria that is this big that you don't have foreign investments like that. What developed China? $60 trillion of foreign capital went into China. Okay? China has 1.7 billion people. Nigeria cannot develop if the West or the rich West do not see our economy as a potential place to come and fight and battle and make money. We need foreign capital, huge investment, huge, not small investment, agriculture, manufacturing, chemicals, steel. Those sectors need to come out big, and that requires foreign capital. The richest people in the world, Bill Gates is worth $100 billion. Bill Gates is richer than 17 states in Nigeria. Why do we run around circles? We want to develop our economy where the foreigners are looking at us. Look at what they are looking at. They're looking at Nigeria. Why should they come and invest in Nigeria? We don't have power. We don't have, steel is not developed. Our sector, we don't have a basic engineering industry.
Security is an issue.
Security is an issue. When they look at, this is what they do. This is what the investors do. What is happening there? Nothing. And our government is not appreciating the issue. The population is expanding. Poverty rate is increasing. We cannot solve our problems ourselves. We must face the facts. We can only solve our problems if we position our economy in a way that foreign capital can flow in. If they could do that to Dubai in 25 years, Dubai was just a wasteland. But look at it now. It's a super. Let these people come in. How do they come in? We must operate according to best practices. The budget transparency should be clear. It should be obvious to these people that we are serious. People are going to Rwanda to make investments there. People are going to Ethiopia to make investments there. Okay? In America, they had a skyscraper 90 stories higher than 1902. Nigeria, the tallest building in Nigeria is not up to 40 stories. This is 21st century. We don't have our real estate dead, transportation, comatose. We are still trying to fix roads when people are doing super great trains. We are talking. Look, we should look at the whole thing. We must be ready to set up systems. We must stop looking at it from individual perspective, a level of poor people. I don't like trivializing the issue of Nigeria, looking at poverty and this. These are the small issues. It's like, what do you take away the sun from the solar system? What happens to everything?
Collapses.
Yes, that's what's happening. We are not looking at the sun. We are looking at the lights coming on the road. There will be poor people in this country if we continue to be like that, unless we look at these four aspects of the economy. Like I said, we must take it seriously. One, we must invest heavily on human capital development, education. Not the type of education we have in our current university, studying psychology and nonsense. What you should be studying is...
Yeah, are they nonsense? There are courses that are also studied abroad,
yes,
in the West.
Yes, they are nonsense for the economy now. I'll tell you why it's
so
nonsense.
Priorities are wrong.
It's wrong, it's wrong. What we need is education, practical education, pragmatic, functional education. Why will you graduate from the university and you'll be looking for a job when you can create job if you have a functional education? Have you ever seen a pilot looking for a job before? Have you seen a medical doctor looking for a job? Have you seen a nurse looking for a job? Have you seen a computer scientist, a software giant looking for a job? There are certain skills. We should be educating people for skills. Skills, not philosophical education. You can study philosophy, you become an analyzer. How does that? The economy is not yet developed. We must train people for skills. When I say skills, I mean skills that people want. Look at the business you are talking about.
I'm sure, just to bump in on you, I'm sure that's why there's more emphasis now on STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, which the Vice President has been very, very keen.
Yes,
but we're hoping we're able to pursue that initiative as quickly as possible. But, gentlemen, I want us to wrap it up on this conversation so we can move to the next one. A lot of times when we start talking about budget like this, you realize that we don't also make the move to hold government accountable enough. What should Nigerians know about the budget? What should they know enough to serve as a basis for them to be able to ask the right questions at the right time about this budgetary process? Because we may say, well, a lot of persons don't understand how the budgetary process works, but in the end, it affects them directly or indirectly. So, Olu Martins.
Yeah, it was Ptolemy that said that the ignorant man is not the one who didn't go to school, but the one who says that I don't care about politics. Not realizing that
politics is a dirty game.
Yeah, not realizing that politics formulate policies, and policies determine the quality of life that you live. Whether you like it or not, government is the superstructure that superintends over every other aspect of human endeavor. If you don't get government right, there's no how that you're going to get everything that comes out of this right. It's like the head. If the head is rotten, absolutely it's going to begin to affect the body. So I concur. I mean, consensus are they done with a lot of the things that he has said. Pastors must begin to realize that they have a platform, and the platform isn't just about God will do it for you, but you must start talking about how do you, empower people? How do you hold, government, accountable? So because the more we're able to get people involved in politics, not politics in terms of partisan, APC, PDP, but politics in terms of the fact that what is government doing, taking keener interest in what government, is doing. And then for those who are in government office too, we must start asking, we must start reducing the allure of government. Let's take, and this is not a campaign. For instance, was that at the last Alagodare, the governor came up to say he's created 156. Direct, indirect, by skills matching and all of that. And people had the jobs. And I'm asking, people don't. When you're not educated about something, you see, there are certain levels you get to. Those skills are scarce skills, all right. Just like he was saying, at executive level. Because when you get into a banking sector, for instance, people are going to apply at the entry level. Entry level, it's just basic skills that you have.
All right.
When you move up a little bit, you find out that assistant manager, you look at a lot of banks, they're looking for assistant managers because those are not skills that jump off the table. They are skills that you must, acquire over time. So what do? Jobs are always available, and you need to know that there are jobs everywhere. It's just that does your skill match the job? All right. If you don't have the skills that match the job, you will just be there applying, for jobs. So there are some people who have left school for 5 years, and within 5 years, you haven't done anything. You haven't acquired a skill, no professional exams. There's no no skill set, no tool set, so you're practically unemployable.
You can't even use the computer, basically.
You can't even use you are practically unemployable after 5 years because the world has revolved. So I concur when he says that some of the, our curriculum in university is practically useless. NDDC will build a building in Uniben and then bring the engineers from outside Uniben. And Uniben has a whole faculty of engineering. But you bring, people from outside because people are still teaching function on computer and then drawing computer on the wall and say, this is the mouse. No, not that. This is the mouse on the wall. That's what, we're talking about. So you have curriculum that was developed 50 years ago. But you have curriculum developed 50 years ago for a world 50 years after that has changed 4 times. So by the time you leave university, you're coming to the university, you're coming to a world that no longer exists. Because the curriculum they teach in university is to prepare you for a world that no longer exists. Because people are taught, I beg to apply. When people are developing, proposals on, how to build things that, they blow the mind. You get to university and they're telling you, this is how to write, So by the time you come here, everybody is thinking subsistence. How do I, get a job? Not how do I create, a job. So we need to rejig the whole of our mindset. And then we need to use every platform that is, available. I agree with you that people, are nonchalant about it. But that's where the media comes in, the fortune of the estate. We must create more programs like this. And maybe sometimes, yes, focused away from, when you call me, I just look. I hope I'm not talking about, no. Sometimes we need to abandon that, and then educate people. Confront your commissioner, all right? Ask him confront your House of Rep, confront your senator, confront your councillor. Educate people. And how do we move away from where we are? But in the final analysis, the truth of the matter is that people get the kind of leader, that they want. As long as we're satisfied with where we are, All right, as long as I'm satisfied with, mediocrity, as long as I'm satisfied with all of that, and then we have unfortunate leaders that, encourage, and I can understand why people have the kind of challenge that they have with, the present government, in Edo State, because it's not patronizing. It's a 21st century leadership that the governor is trying to bring, and there are people who are in the past who are saying that we're political leaders, just don't go and bring a professional to be commissioner of education. Ask us. We will bring one guy, retired teacher from the village, because he was the one that secured our ballot. Those are the kind of challenges. So they're not accommodating the paradigm shift. So as long as we remain where we are, we're going to be the kind of people that, and when we have more poor people, all right, and then we don't have a sustainable middle class, we can't sustain struggles, and then we can't even sustain security. What is security? Security is that Uyi has 50,000, he has 35, I have 55. We're close to each other, so they're not envy. But if I, for instance, have 5 kobo, and then Uyi has 550,000, even when you are driving, I'm looking at you, I don't like the way Olumati's are looking at me. The reason is because the gap between us, so we must widen, the middle class, and the way forward to widen middle class is huge human capital development. Because if you don't develop the human beings, you develop the roads, the human beings will go and dig up the roads at night and then fix it in the daytime and be asking you who are for 100 naira, in the daytime. So, but if you fix the human beings will generate the new technology to fix the roads and then have, and behave like human beings who will not go and
I think
roads.
you've touched on many things on account of these analysis. You've talked about even reorientation of the mind.
Absolutely.
And then people have to be aware and then, of course, build capacity to be able to deliver on critical issues. And then, of course, by all means, be more creative. At this point, we want to switch to our second and, of course, our last discussion on the program, which has to do with the proposition by senators for governments to consider urgently paying stipends to Nigeria's graduates pending when they are able to secure paying jobs. Is that really possible? Even though we know this is also a long drawn out discussion. We understand as it stands today, unemployment rate in this country is not less than 23.1%. And Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige, is saying that if nothing is done as quickly as possible, that figure will shoot all the way to 33.5% by 2020, which of course is next year. I want to begin with you, Awosage. A lot of persons will tell you America pays unemployment benefits and blah, 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 blah. And then also exactly, others tell you, well, America is not Nigeria's mate, economically speaking. Is there a convergence between both countries as to ensuring that Social Security is taken seriously?
Thank you very much. It was Oprah Winfrey that went on the street at the time. There was this junkie nuisance on the street. And they put some money, huge money, close to him. And they were televising him, they were giving cameras all over. And they picked the money up. He went in, squandered it, was enjoying himself, happy with the money, everybody was watching him. And at the end of the day, he came back. He was living large, going to big clubs, hotels, everywhere, spending money, and at the end of the day, the money was all gone. He returned back, to that same spot where he was. That is what it is. It's not about we want to start paying stipends to graduates. In as much as I feel the pain of what a lot of people are going through. Like I was privileged yesterday. A lady who came to my office with her landlord, they had issues. And she said she's a graduate, facing all manner of expensive hair and all what she was wearing, very cool. And she said she's jobless. She doesn't have a job. and I was very inquisitive to ask, why don't you have a job? And she said, yes, she don't have a job, and that's why you're wearing all of this, and you really don't have a job. And
she needs to package for a job, I guess.
That's the word she used.
You should model. You should go and model.
That itself was very, very offensive to me. Okay. She said, it's all packaging, and I said, what are you packaging? Packaging nonsense. You don't have a job. And you are having enough money. So what I'm trying to say in essence, I remember the Empower, we saw it. Some people collected Empower here. I saw them. They were squandering the money. They were doing nothing. It's one money to buy more, what they call data, to browse and to move around to boards of there and hang around. So the man, like some have said, you need to reorientate it first. This job is money. We were not taught, it was a leader in school. We were not taught about money. Olumatis did not teach us go catch money. It's not about getting money. It's about developing yourself.
First.
You understand? So when you develop yourself as a person, then the money will come to you. So if you are talking about graduates, let's really check these graduates. A lot of them, I remember when I was serving in Ekiti State, I saw some graduates that could not communicate in English. It was Hausa they were speaking.
In what language were they taught?
I was wondering. I mean, graduates from university were at the same orientation camp, and they were asking them questions, you know, just hello, you know, where are you from? He was speaking Hausa. And they had to bring an Hausa man to come and help to communicate what they were saying. And they were there with us. So when you're talking of we need to start helping people, I don't believe any human being that have brains in the head. What government should do now is to look critically into it. But the challenge is, who are those that will look into it and get to know what is the real needs of these persons? Some persons have the money. I know in those days when we were in school, a young lady came in with 15,000, kept complaining that the money was not enough until the pastor starts informing.
And 15,000 had much more value back in the day.
Yes. Her school fees was about 3K then now. And she had money. That was big money. Then she kept complaining that she buy groceries, she buy this, she buy that, and the money is all gone. Pastor now said, don't buy again. Go home, buy things from Lagos and sell to your friends in school. And then she started and she got 30,000. Pastor said, travel back to Lagos, and she bought more. Before long, she got almost 200,000. Before we knew it, she had grown her business. She had 6 shops at the time she left my microbiology, and she had about 1.7 million in her account. She had the car to drive then, and she had shops and people working for her. When this is what the pastor that is teaching in the church just said, do this. And that's how it is. So she would have continued to, maybe at the end of the day, she would have been applying, begging to apply somewhere because she have not been taught what to do. I think Nigeria is so blessed a country that we can really create a whole lot. So we need to be helped. Those that don't, that cannot, like people like men here now, I've seen their capacity. They are wonderful people. What is government doing about them? You can call on Olumati, call my brother there, come and talk to young people like you. It's not maybe about politics, it's not about party. Right. I've told you before, I don't belong to any of them.
About capacity to add value.
To bring me into a political circle and I ran away. I told him I don't belong to any of them. Because the truth is this, I don't see any difference between a particular a man is here today, tomorrow is going home the other way, and the other day is coming back home. I don't understand. That's what I don't understand. So it's about get people that can really help out and fund the system and see how they can. He controls a lot of young people. He also has a lot of folks around him. And there are many around the world, many in the country today. So when we pull this together, other than making it one senator coming from Abuja, flying down, and he's talking about he wants to start dishing out money, it's just talk. Like in the likes of Rochas Okorocha the other time said, the money they are collecting, why did you ever collect the one you collected before? So when men like that are talking, when a younger person like us can talk to us, we'll listen. And that is how we make these things work. It's not about the money we go out here and
let's talk about social security from a broader perspective. I want to believe it's not just about paying stipends to graduates alone. There's a bigger picture concerning social security, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was René Descartes that said, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. So you have to be before you become. So if you give stipends, who are you giving stipends to? All right, you're giving stipends to. What are people going to use it for? Dan Tata is, I'm told, is the uncle of Dangote, and maybe some 30 years ago he gave Dangote 500,000 naira. I mean, Dangote has turned that money around over and over, and today is valued at 16 billion naira as the world's richest black man. There are people today, by hook or by crook, who by today's equivalent have made more money than the one Dan Tata gave to Dangote some years back. There are politicians who have amassed more wealth. If you factor inflation, valued much more than 500,000. But you will find out that many of those guys, you see some politicians, there's nothing that they do. There's no hotel, there's no school, there's nothing. One cycle after the other, they are waiting for government, and when the government patronage doesn't come, they become like, like drug addicts who need to be fixed. So social security issues are, first of all is that, are we thinking in terms of productivity, all right? Are we thinking, how many young people have visited government production hall? Innovative one. Many people have gone to Sapele to say, okay, Sapele Road to say, okay, the government says they have something that they're doing there, How many people have gone there?
Let me check it out.
Yeah, let me check it. How many people have gone to, now is there Edo Technical College, former Benin Technical College, to see, what is, happening there? When 4 or 5 people, young people talk about, what you talk about, their language that you use, some people don't understand you. When you say, optic fiber, and their money is okay. Does this guy belong, to this world? So if you give money to those kind of people, you know where it will end up? It will end up in Paraga. It will end up in Kankai. That's where it's going to end up. The reason is because, you see, the nation will reflect, the leadership will reflect followership. So as long as we have leaders who themselves are not responsible, young men are going to follow them. I think it was Winston Churchill that says that many of us want our children to be president, but they want our children to be politicians. The reason is because we want the man to be president, but we think that politicians are, no good people. So the first thing we need to do is to work on the mind of the young man, to let him know that if you have 1,000 naira, you are a leader, because you can use that 1,000 naira to take a picture at the environmental garden and do all kinds of posing. You can also use that 1,000 naira to buy books, or perhaps to say, let me talk to this young man. I heard you on television. Let me buy you a drink, sir. Then let's talk about, ideas. Instead of asking people to give you money, right, why don't you ask people to give you ideas? The people meet me and say, find me something. Nobody is saying, find me an idea. Look at what I want to do, with, XYZ, kind of. So if you give 1,000 naira to the kind of Nigerians that, I agree that, maybe instead of giving money to the people in National Assembly, maybe we should collect their money and share it to them. Unfortunately, if you share the money to them, after 5 years, that money is going to get back into the hands of a few people. The reason is because there is making money, there's managing money, there's multiplying money. Now you have money in your hand, doesn't mean that the money is going to stay. You have to be able to multiply the money, and then you have to be able to manage the money. Do people understand what cash flow is? Some people are spending much more than they are getting. All right, a girl has 2 phones and she's subscribing, from 2 of them, and then she's asking me to say, buy me, data. I don't understand.
Emailing you as CV.
Yeah. I went to a church in Lagos, and somebody is saying that if you bought a car this year, you say some of you must come out because your phones are more expensive than cars. And I understand what he's talking about. You can get a Golf 2 or Golf 3, for instance, for the cost of phones that some people, are carrying around. So the first thing we need to do is to look at the mind. What if they give you money? What is the first thing that you think about? Because otherwise, you're just going to be sustaining poverty. You're going to be keeping people in their comfort zone. Do you know that people who don't want to live in NYC?
Right.
They serve 3 times. So. But by the time they are finishing to serve, they will do one thing. They will retain them in there because that money that they are collecting, they don't see themselves in the larger society any more money, than that. There are people who are professional students still today. I have some of them. They've left school, but they're still doing dance movement, and all of that. So I'm embarrassed when people say, Raul Martin, former student union. I say, no, that's not the record. That is past. Like we sing in church. Yesterday is gone. Today, we're looking at. So the bulk of the young people that we have now, need reorientation. But sincerely speaking, the greater reorientation comes from the kind of leadership that we present. Okay. We need to be able to rejig the leadership so that the young people can have better people to follow.
Let me push it to destiny now.
Yeah.
We're seeing many initiatives along the line of what Reverend Martin has talked about. Coming with a lot of ideas,
yes,
most times programs,
okay, to
empower, as it were, Nigerian youth, especially unemployed graduates. So we've seen you win in this country, for example. Yeah. We've seen Shopee. Of course, now we have the NPAR. Okay. Some of these programs, yes, they've seen a fair share of their own controversies and all that, but haven't they made a whole lot of difference?
Yes, they are doing their part.
Okay,
in
their
solving,
parts.
They are doing their part in solving the problem. But let me say something. An economist said, a very respected economist, that when you are 20, it's okay to be a socialist. At 40, we should all be capitalists. What that meant is getting freebies is okay for a teenager. But when you get to the age of maturity and you still expect freebies, you're either a lunatic or you are not aware of what it means to grow up. What Nigerians need is a job, not social palliatives to reduce their suffering. The suffering will continue. We must look at sustainability. It's not about giving stipends to people. Any stipend you give to somebody comes from somewhere.
All right.
It comes from somewhere. The stipend is not on its own. The stipends come from somewhere. Who is
There's a source for it.
There's a source for it. Is it the workers, the government workers that will fund it? Is it the taxpayers? Where is the source of funding that system? Okay, we are looking at the United States and other countries. We don't just copy things because we hear that people say it in US, in Germany, they give money. Germany, last 2 years ago, paid people to use their light instead of putting it off. It's on the news. They paid people because they said the cost of generating, they generated so much power. The cost of reducing the power generated was too high that they had to pay people to use it.
Use it more.
Use it. You're telling people, put on your AC, go to work. They pay people each home 20 euros to put on their electrical devices and use it. You know, so when they do something in Germany, you go and copy Germany. This is Nigeria. The German economy is among the first 5 richest economies in the world. The average income of Germany is over $65,000. We shouldn't look at it like that. What we need is to grow the economy. I'll give you a simple analogy so that people at home will understand. You have an uncle, a big uncle, always rich. And then you walk up to him and you say, I don't have money. And they say, why don't you have money? You say, I'm a student. And then he gives you 10,000 naira. I can predict what you're going to do with it. You go and spend it, 3 weeks later, you come back, right? Another 10,000. That's a model. You keep giving the person money, he goes and spends it, come back. You are the rich uncle, always rich. Option 2, you have this little brother. You are the big uncle too, you are rich. And he comes to your place for holidays and he says, I need 10,000 naira. You say, okay, no problem, come. You don't have control over every aspect of your life. So you go to your bedroom and say, please fix the bed, wash my car, do other things, make the house look nice. And you don't say anything to the person will do everything. And then you give the person the 10,000 naira. You have solved 2 problems. 1, the house is cleaner now.
So value has been added.
2, the person does not feel you are giving him a gift. He's a man.
He has earned it.
He has earned it. Because he has earned it, he knows the energy he puts into put that house right. He will spend that money responsibly. He will spend it responsibly. So anytime you give people money and they don't earn it, they get to beer parlors and they spend it. But when people earn money, they tend to be very responsible with what they earn. And then such a person can be, you can go to the market and buy things because you earn that money. You buy things responsibly. You can't be giving people money. It is a norm. It's a basic fact of economics. You can't give people money for nothing. Social palliatives are given, but it shouldn't be institutionalized in a way that it now encourages people to be rent seekers, poor, lazy. They already said Nigerian youths are lazy. The statement, when they said that, the president was not cautious with that statement. They are not lazy. We have not been able to create enterprise from the average Nigerian youth. Really, if you talk to Nigerians on the street, Nigerians prefer easy money than working hard. If they see a person working hard, people detest hard workers in this country. They detest them. How will you not detest somebody? There's a guy called a Yahoo boy, you know him. He's using a Ferrari. Then there's another guy who has a shop in Ring Road. He's trekking all day long. And so there's this girl that is looking at both of them and says, this is useless. He's selling something. But this Yahoo boy has a big car. Look at the system. Look at the people that are rich in this country. I'll mention the first 10 richest people in this country. And then look at what they do. Is it that you're a politician or a pastor? Or you're a G boy?
We have pastors on the show. Are you aware?
I'm telling you, I want to tell you. I'm coming. Is it that you're a politician? You're a politician, you're a pastor, or you're a fraudster, or you're a government boy, or you have a brother, a big brother in
the ones they call Hallelujah boys.
Yeah, in the public sector.
You're a kidnapper, you have not just been caught.
Yes. These are the richest people in your country. And so there's a 17-year-old boy looking at the system and sees that the richest people in this country, what are pastors selling? They are selling salvation, for instance. And it's not something. Salvation will never produce this crop, for instance. Tangible. It's not tangible. They are psychological goods. Okay? What is the politician selling? He's selling policies and things you cannot really touch. But they exist. Look at the richest people in this country. How many rich people produce their wealth from enterprise? Then let me take another system. Let me give you the world. Look at Amazon, America, the richest man in the world, Jeff Bezos. You can see his business network. Look at Bill Gates.
And there's a history to it.
Yes, look at Zuckerberg. Look at the richest people in the world. They are doing something productive. You can relate to their products. I was looking at this camera yesterday and I saw Windows. That's Microsoft. So I am not surprised that it's rich. But look at the people that are rich in this country. They are rent seekers. We call it immiserizing growth, primitive accumulation. They tend to make money from selling smoke, things that you cannot touch. So what Nigeria needs to do is to force enterprise into the hearts of people. I have noticed something. If a man is willing to actually succeed, they do succeed. They do succeed. With a population of 200 million people, any Nigerian who is willing to do business can do it and succeed. I'll give an example with myself. I have never looked for a job since I graduated. I went to University of Lagos. I said that it's the mentality. When I was at 300 level, I made up my mind not to look for a job. I am not interested in that. And I had only 250,000 in my account. I started a small thing, now I'm doing it. And today my business is worth nothing less than 6 to 7 million in just 5 years. It depends on the way you think. It's the way I was raised. I was raised to think that you can grow little things. Coca-Cola started in 1895. Today it employs over 500,000 workers. You know, even let's look at biology. The sperm that produces the man, if I bring a picture of a sperm and I put it here, project it, and I bring a picture of a man and show it, you will not see the connection between the sperm and the man. All great things come from simple systems. You know, they don't look like that at first, but start it and grow it. And I'm happy Edo State is allowing entrepreneurship. You are seeing some private, even in my business, you can see a lot of people coming up, taking big boss space and things like that. The average young man in Edo State is beginning to appreciate the fact that they can do without government. They can set up a system, they can grow it. That is what we need. We need to encourage enterprise, the spirit of enterprise. How do you do that? The government should allow the business system to encourage people to come in.
Incidentally,
Yes, that's what we need to do.
time is a challenge. Yes. Time is a challenge you have to deal with at this point on the program. But these three gentlemen have been making sense of both conversations that we've had so far. Somebody said if you want Nigeria to turn around overnight, you have to put politicians on minimum wage. I don't know how possible. I don't know how possible that is going to be. But hopefully, maybe in the months and years ahead, that will be one conversation right in front of us. I want to thank especially Destiny Awobu, brilliant economist and statistician. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Coming.
Thank you, Vios.
And of course, the ever fierce and very fiery Reverend Olu Martins. We also appreciate you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Cool and gentle Barrister Patrick Awosagi, we thank you too.
Who doesn't preach? I'm the one who preaches.
Well, I guess he hosts crusades. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate all of the value you brought on the show today. That's what we're leaving our discussion here. But very shortly, I'll be joined by those behind one of the biggest events as far as Christmas is concerned. Shortly, do stay with me.